We're here because free speech is under attack. We're here because people are being convinced that socialism works. We're here because people are being judged guilty until proven innocent. We are fighting back with facts. This is not a safe zone, so buckle up, Buttercup. This is the raw, naked truth.
Welcome to the Raw Naked Truth. I'm your host, Eric Lopkin. The Russian invasion of Ukraine is still going on, and it has unveiled the new face of war. The attack has peeled back the curtain on some of the limitations of governments. As a consequence, civilians are taking up the fight. Ukrainian civilians have joined militia and are not only getting weapons from the Ukrainian government, but they're fighting off the Russians with anything they can find, including kitchen knives. One Ukrainian beer manufacturer has switched production to make Molotov cocktails instead of their usual brew. But Ukrainian civilians are not the only ones fighting the Russians. The hacker group Anonymous stepped up to combat Russia's cyber attacks and propaganda. The group has claimed credit for several cyber incidents, including distributed denial of service attacks, where a site is rendered unreachable by being bombarded with traffic, that have brought down government websites, and that of Russia Today, the state-backed news service. The DDoS attacks still appeared to be working as of Sunday afternoon, with the official sites for the Kremlin and Ministry of Defense still inaccessible. Anonymous also said it had hacked the Ministry of Defense database, and it claimed also to have hacked Russian state TV channels, posting pro-Ukrainian content, including patriotic songs and images from the invasion. These images are helping to combat Russia's internal propaganda and show the Russian people what's really going on. Anonymous has also blocked Russian units from coordinating attacks by hacking the radio frequency of the Russian military and jamming it with the Ukrainian anthem. Additionally, nonprofits like Project Dynamo, who evacuated Americans trapped in Afghanistan, have commenced operations in Ukraine to get people out. Businesses are also stepping up. While the governments of the world have allowed Russia's energy sales to continue, BP has sacrificed billions of dollars by pulling out of a Russian joint venture, limiting some of Russia's capability to sell energy. Bars, restaurants, and liquor stores around the world have halted orders of Russian vodka. The civilians stepping up has highlighted, by contrast, the weak response by the American and European governments. While they are now stepping up to supply weapons to Ukraine, policies have been spotlighted that empowered Putin. Biden's misguided energy policies made it possible for Putin to amass a war chest to fund the invasion, and bad energy policies by the American and various European governments made Europe dependent on Russian oil and gas. This is why sanctions have allowed exceptions for Russia's energy sector, which is the main source of Russia's funds. Europe is terrified to actually cut off Russian energy because they rely on it for day-to-day operations. While NATO's response has not been stellar, it could have been much worse. Prior to the Trump administration, most NATO countries did not fund their defense as required by the NATO agreement. Trump pushed the NATO countries into living up to their defense agreements. This has become invaluable in this situation. Had Trump not insisted that NATO countries live up to their agreement to fund their militaries to the tune of 2% of their gross domestic product, they would be unable to defend themselves against a Russian attack, and more importantly, at this moment, they would be unable to defend the border of Poland, which is a NATO member, cutting off Ukraine completely from the West. And now we'll head to our Wallet Watch segment with Brian Williams. Brian, how you doing this week?
Doing just fine, Eric. How are you?
I'm good. So the headlines are all about Ukraine. The market's going crazy up and down. Oil prices are skyrocketing. What's your take on all of this?
Well, I think like everybody else, we're looking at the volatility from a client perspective. It's interesting. You know, we've got people who are now in the middle of their career and really haven't had one. We've had just one down year in the last 13. And so for people in their 401ks, this is kind of a new experience for them. So we're trying to create the conversation around, well, these kind of things happen, but you don't want to be dismissive of their concerns. But you know, as we record this Monday morning, it looks like the futures are down 450. But we've seen this story before. We saw this last week where we started off. We had a couple significant down days, or so it looked that way on Thursday, and then rallied back. So you never can tell, and people that try to time the market usually don't end up doing as well as people who spend time in the market. But that's what we're watching.
Yeah, given the events going on around the world, the market has been incredibly resilient. Do you have any explanation for what's propping it up?
Well, I think a lot of it is just people have been trained to buy the dips. Anytime they see a big market sell off, there's just too much money floating around and there's nowhere else to put it. So, you know, you can put it in the bank and get zero. You can put it in some treasuries and, you know, buy a CD and maybe get 1%. And that's essentially appealing to almost no one. And a lot of it, what we're watching right now is in the cryptocurrency space as well. We're seeing this is maybe the first real test for Bitcoin and some of the others. Are they going to be a hedge? Are they going to behave more like gold, where it's sort of a safe haven? So gold has done well recently, or is it going to trade more like a NASDAQ stock? And so far it's traded more like a high beta, a volatile stock than it has a gold. But we'll see the way this plays out.
Great. Thanks for being here today, and we will see you next time on Wallet Watch.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
So while the governments of the world were caught flat-footed by Putin's moves, civilians have stepped up to fill the void. That's the raw, naked truth. If you have a topic you'd like us to look into, you can message us at xvadio.com/connect. You can catch every episode of The Raw Naked Truth, as well as the rest of the XVadio podcast network at xvadio.com/podcasts, the Apple Podcasts app, Google Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Stitcher, Amazon Music, Audible, and wherever you find podcasts. We'll see you next time.